People ask me, Keji, why are you learning 3 languages? And to that I say, well, why aren't you? Language learning is one of the human being's most innate tasks. How do you think when colonizers showed up, people understood each other? They learned languages and they didn't have apps, they didn't have books, they just learned. Human communication isn't as complicated as we make it to be, and I think seem like it's some foreign thing that only people can do from the ages of 2 to 5. I'm here to say that is not true. It is our time to join the rest of the world in becoming bilinguals. I'm learning 3 right now. My goals for them vary because I speak French as an advanced learner. I speak Swahili as a diet intermediate learner. And for Korean, I'm a complete beginner. So I'll go through them by languages and talk about what apps I use, what my strategies are, what I'm trying to do, what I do well, what I don't do well. And we're just gonna break it down. The reason why I actually started learning French was when I moved to the faraway country of Swaziland that nobody knew about, and everybody thought I was moving to Switzerland. And at the school we went to, it was like low-key an expat school. It gave me a choice of learning either take Swahili class or you could take French class. French was a language I could continue in high school if we ever moved back to the United States, which we did. So I decided to jump into French class. My comfort level with it is actually pretty good. I know that I make mistakes when I speak French, but I'm very okay with that because I'm at the advanced plateau where you're not quite to fluency or nativeness, but you're definitely advanced, and it's really hard to make that jump because a lot of the things that you need to do that are the small mistakes. My writing isn't as good as my speaking because that's what I've worked on the most. So this is how I practice it. My phone is set to French because that translates on my apps to French. And you might think, why do I need to know all the settings in French? Like, I don't need to know réglage means settings, but you wouldn't be surprised how much those get added to your brain. And also it helps me for banking things. Learning how to operate as a bank account in French has been interesting because I do all my business. I run a small business, and I can actually make a video about that if y'all want. All my stuff for my business I run in French because I want to practice not only being an entrepreneur, but also my languages. I also use Netflix and word reference. Netflix, I watch French shows without subtitles just because I really want to get used to the dictation of hearing spoken French from various parts of the world. So Le Cercle Game is really, really good. Oh my god. Chef's kiss show to watch and learn conversational French without subtitles, because a lot of things that aren't subtitled that you might need help hearing get typed out as they talk to the screen in the game. When I'm watching shows specifically in French, I don't use subtitles because I've realized that I learn a lot more without subtitles, even if I'm not getting 100% of the content. I'm learning more words and I'm practicing listening more to different accents better. I have a whole video about the shows that I watch in Netflix to learn language. If you want to check that out, I'll link it. I also use word reference. French doesn't have as many words in comparison to English, so using the words that they have to create a lot of different meanings with them. One word can mean 10 different things based on the context, and word reference is really good at providing you the context and the sample sentences that say, oh, this word could mean this in this kind of sentence, or it could mean this. Also, on YouTube or Facebook or Reddit, there are a bunch of different communities that let's learn French, or I'm in a Facebook group that does Zoom calls that we speak low-key mostly in English, but if we want to, we can definitely switch to French if we want. And it's super easy to start groups like that. I usually just start from the Shut Up and Go community by Damon and Joe. Their channel has some super great people that follow it, and we have a Facebook page. And on YouTube, if I find any French vloggers or French people that I watch them without subtitles. Most of my French practice comes from listening to spoken French in those kinds of channels. I don't really do much writing. I think that's something that I need to work on. I was going to. I had a study abroad all lined up. I was going to be in Quebec. I was going to find me a cute Canadian boyfriend. He was gonna give me dual citizenship, everything. I had it locked down. Let's just take a moment to recognize all the study abroads that have been lost.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
My brothers kind of understand me in French when I speak it at them. Small phrases, not like long form stuff. But I also just talk to myself. I talk to myself a lot in French. I always kind of think like, if I'm having this conversation in French, would I know how to say what I'm trying to say? And if I don't, then I'll try and figure it out, write it down, take notes in my phone to figure it out later if I can't do it at that moment. Because I do want to like really operate more of my life in French. This language, I get a little butthurt about it because I love Swahili, but I struggle with it a lot. I am in a home where Swahili is spoken by many people, and yet we never use it. My parents talk to each other in Swahili, but when I was young, they never taught me, and I'm still bitter about it because like I could have grown up just speaking Swahili like a normal Kenyan kid. And they said, oh, teach you? Just kidding, no. I guess it was because they tried to teach my older brother and he didn't like it and he gave up. So then they didn't even bother. They said, keji? Next caller. Next caller.
Next caller.
And so I'm like, so that's why I'm learning it right now. I understand almost probably like 80% of what my parents will be saying to each other, or when we go to church, a lot of our stuff is bilingual and I'll understand perfectly fine. It's just like speaking is so challenging. I know how to create sentences, but I don't know how to create sentences in a way that makes sense for the life that I live and in the context that I operate. Like the kind of way you talk about like religion and church and stuff is very different than the way you talk in a conversation when you're buying milk. And like when you're in a college Swahili class, you're gonna learn how to buy milk. That's I think why I struggle so much. Also bullying. African parents really know how to say things that will leave you feeling disrespected like for the rest of your life. You don't even want to speak anything anymore because you're just like, well, you ended my career. All these kinds of things coming out the side of their face. I find it so much easier to speak a foreign language in front of strangers that I know I'll never see again versus like your own family and friends. That's so much more hard for me because I know they're judging me. I know they're like, why don't you know this? Fear of judgment from your family is way more terrifying than strangers. I don't care what strangers think. And so the apps that I use, I really honestly don't use any because they're bad. The Duolingo section on Swahili is trash, and most other Swahili learning apps are really poorly executed or they don't have a wide enough vocabulary. If anything, I probably use Spotify or Instagram because I do follow some people who make some nice Sheng content. Sheng is like a dialect of Swahili. It's like the slang version of it. Like Sauti Sol's new album, which if you're not listening to, you need to get on the Afrobeats wave. Beyonce got on it. So Majimbo is also somebody else who I watch. She's so funny. She is like the essence of who I aspire to be. I also, if I really am feeling it, when I want to study Swahili, I will use my Swahili professor's notebook. I can't show you the cover because it has fallen off. But this is the textbook that we got when we first started Swahili classes because I did take Swahili 1 and 2. My life is kind of diet bilingual. And by diet bilingual, I mean that I can't speak it, but I can understand it. So at church, I'll be hearing Swahili all the time. The praise and worship music that my mom plays around the house, it's in Swahili. The music in the car that when I'm driving with my mom, because I don't like to drive, I like to be driven. That's in Swahili. And yeah, I just kind of hear it around me and I should be able to speak it more. And I think I just need to try speaking it more. It's just very scary. And the last language that I am studying right now is Korean. The reason why I want to speak Korean, I really don't know. I think it all started with Parasite. Like I watched Parasite and I was like, this language sounds... And I also wanted to be able to understand Parasite in its native language, which I know is not like a sustainable way to start learning a language. But then I actually started teaching myself Hangul, which is the lettering system in Korean. And it kind of felt like I was solving a puzzle every time I read a syllable, which was really cool. I also do have a goal of, by the end of this year, learning a language that doesn't use Roman syllables and Roman lettering, just because French uses Roman letters. Swahili is Romanized, obviously English is Romanized, so I wanted to learn something that wasn't, and I think Korean's the most accessible, easy language that doesn't use Roman characters, because so I was like, maybe Korean's gonna hit the spot, and it did. It's honestly right now my favorite language to study because it does feel like a puzzle. It's really piquing my interest, and I do really like to study it. And I also like being a complete beginner at something. Also like K-dramas. They're doing it, okay? Like they're eating the girls up. They're eating the plot. Trust I have a video about K-dramas coming up. The resources that I use, this is not an app, but howtostudykorean.com is the GOAT. Best language learning website that I've ever seen. For grammar and pronunciation purposes, it is the best, hands down. And it's all free, which is like amazing. It could use a little bit more vocabulary stuff, but I think vocab is something that you can get from other sources. So I don't think it's bad that they don't have a lot of vocabulary, because the focus is on the grammar and pronunciation. I also use Drops to learn more vocab stuff. Drops is really cool because it's kind of like intuitive flashcards. So you'll learn by matching, you'll learn by listening, you'll learn by, I don't think there's a speaking element. You'll do dictations, you'll do spelling, all of that. And I think that app is really good for learning vocabulary in that way. It doesn't really do grammar that well, and it doesn't really do verbs, but I think Drops knows where it stands. Also, you only get like 5-minute sessions. If you have the free version, you don't get like unlimited time. So I like where it is. I'm not gonna pay for a version of an app that I only want to use for vocabulary. I think How to Study Korean and the free version of Drops are really good for a beginner learner. Duolingo for Korean sucks. I'm gonna just say it right now. You depend a lot on romanizations, and I don't really like that, because to be actually able to speak Korean, you need to be able to read and write it, and Hangul is like critical that you learn. And then I'll also use like the lingua subtitles on Netflix when I'm watching K-dramas, just because like I want to tell myself that I think I'm learning, even though I'm actually really not. So I really just watch them. I don't pay attention to the subtitles as much as I should, but that's my business. So that is how I'm learning Korean, and I'm having a good time doing it. That is all for this week's video. Let me know what languages you're learning right now and how you feel about them. We're all on the same road, but it's no race.